What's going on, FANation? John Impemba here with James Grande. Welcome into the Fantasy Alarm NBA DFS Playbook Live show. We're looking at the Tuesday 5-game main slate here over on DraftKings. James, little 5-gamer here. We got a big slate on Wednesday, then no games for Thanksgiving, then a big slate on Friday. So gearing up for a couple of full days of basketball here, but a small but entertaining 5-game slate on this one.
Yeah, it's definitely a good size slate and just a good slate in general. Emirates NBA Cup game. So I posted on X. No team playing tonight has been eliminated thus far. So it's meaningful games for everybody more than usual. So it should be a fun night. We have a game with like 245 implied points. We have every game over 220. So it should be a fun slate overall.
Yeah, should be obviously the 244 with Chicago, Washington is going to be sort of the headline for today. We have the ownership out over on Fantasy Alarm. No surprise, there are a whole lot of Washington at the top of that ownership for today. Of course, we'll get all those updates as we come closer to the 7 p.m. roster lock. I do appreciate you guys in chat already. We got Zevon popping in. Don't play on DraftKings, but like the show. That's fine. If you got a FanDuel question for us, Yvonne, here, throw them in there. We got quite a few of our watchers here that are from FanDuel players. So don't be shy about popping those questions in there. Jeff popping in, saying howdy. Richard saying hello as well. Two Socks says, what's DFS? Well, daily fantasy sports, my friend. The Prince wants to know what he's doing wrong. The Prince, you just getting unlucky, man. That Rob Williams injury kept you out of the money last night, but you were right there. Sasha popping in from Sydney. What's going on, Sasha? And then our guy Rolly always in here giving the green light to play Dinwiddie and Hardy last night in the same lineup. That was for sure the way to go. We do appreciate all of you tuning each and every day. It is still Black Friday week over here at Fantasy Alarm. So if you haven't already grabbed your All-Pro subscription, now is the time to do it. Save $100 off your annual All-Pro promo code BF24. That is access to all sports, all products, and all benefits here at Fantasy Alarm for less than $16 a month. Our monthly charge subscription is $39.97. You're going to get this for like $15 and change when you sign up with the Black Friday deal we got going on right now. So go there, fantasyalarm.com/Black Friday, promo code BF24. Get that $100 off your annual subscription. Be with us for a year. Good till like next Black Friday, which means the odds are you'll have another deal to take advantage of, and you can just keep that going as part of the Fantasy Alarm family here. Grande, you did the playbook today. You know this slate better than anybody. How are you feeling about it?
I feel good. Let's get into it.
Point guard. Let's get into it then. Talk to me.
Yeah, so point guard at the top, I like Damian Lillard, $8,900. Has looked really good since returning, especially peripherally. Minutes have been great. Shot attempts have been great. Peripheral stats have been great for Dame. Hasn't really even shot the ball well. So we know that there's going to be a big Dame game incoming. There is definitely 50 plus on the table tonight if the shots fall at a little better of a clip. So I like 8,900 for Dame. I don't really have much interest in, like, you can always play Edwards. You can always play Booker. I suspect there's some heavier limit on Beal just given his injury history than there would be Durant. But I don't expect either of them to come out of the gates and play 35. So definitely interested in Booker if you want to get there from like that perspective. We know Booker's going to play 30, 7 plus minutes a night. And he's a guy who can catch fire. And obviously now, pick your poison with who you're guarding if you're the Lakers. So I think Booker and Edwards are just tournament plays only, like Lillard the most. Then I think it's a bunch of very interesting plays after that. Kobe White, I am very high on tonight, $7,000. The field is going to go to Zach LaVine. You and I had talked about it last night, and that's just been kind of apparent all day with ownership. And not to say Kobe White isn't getting ownership, but I think he's the clear leverage play off of LaVine. When you factor in one, we talk about this a lot. Like, individual matchups are individual matchups, and sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. Dyson Daniels got torched by LaVine the other day, but that for one half, right? Dyson Daniels shut him down for one half, couldn't turn off the faucet in the second half. Bilal Coulibaly, really, really good perimeter defender, is going to guard Zach LaVine, and he's going to be on the floor for 40 minutes. Kobe White's the clear leverage if you believe that Coulibaly is that dude defensively
Right.
and can give LaVine problems. I'm not saying he can or can't. I'm just saying there is clear leverage going to Kobe White. He has 240 bombs in his last four. He is a very high upside player when he's making shots. He's pretty good peripherally too. So I like Kobe White in tournaments. The 37 minutes in Atlanta was a cup game in
Yep.
a game that they had been winning handily the whole night. So just goes to show you Chicago not eliminated in the cup. They're 1-1. So this is an important game. I expect big minutes out of Kobe White. You can play Van Vliet for $100 more, little indifferent there. But I think the Giddy, Paul tier is interesting because another guy in Josh Giddey that has a very high ceiling um, on the court.
Yep.
And, it's obviously a great matchup. No Patrick Williams. But what minutes do we get? The 33 minutes in the cup game was great. 21 minutes in the second leg of a back-to-back, not so great. And it's not like that game was out of hand early enough to just be like, oh, we could chalk that up as a blowout. No, that's just the volatility of the Josh Giddey minutes. So I like Giddey in tournaments quite a bit just because he
I mean,
had feeling.
he was really good even in the 21 minutes. I actually just published underdog pick 'em article for today. Giddey is on there, on the not on the cover, but he's in the article over the 18.5 points and rebounds. He had 18 actual in that game against Atlanta, where it was a cup game where he played the 33 minutes to go with the 6 rebounds. And then he had 12 and 7 in 21 minutes against Memphis. He's a high usage player. He's always a double and triple double threat when he is on the floor. So I like the Giddey call a lot. Ownership is also a little bit favoring him today. That game in general is just super chalky as a whole here. So I'm with you there. But what is it about Paul? This Paul Sexton Brogdon group for you?
Yeah, I mean, and Keontae for that matter as
Sure.
well. I mean, Chris Paul about 1.2 fantasy points per minute. He's probably at the bottom of the list, but I do think there's obviously a ceiling when he's making shots. The Sexton thing and Keontae George are two of the more interesting plays to me. Not that they're they're popular, so I'm not breaking
Right.
news here. But Utah is just more shorthanded than they've been, at least with key contributors, right? Taylor Hendricks started the year as a starter, he's out. Filipowski's been starting prior to the Walker Kessler return, he's out and was in their rotation. Jordan Clarkson's their sixth man and plays more than starters on most nights. He's out. And we finally saw Sexton extended last game, 39 minutes. Really the first time this year where you can or 38 minutes, you can really say wow, we got a boatload of minutes from Colin Sexton and he was great.
Yeah.
So, I love the volume. He is just a very good scorer. The peripheral stats have been what they've been this year, but 5,800, I'm willing to take a shot if we get anywhere near 38 minutes again. And then Keontae George, super high usage player this year when there's been no Jordan Clarkson. 27% usage when you're removing Clarkson and Filipowski off the court, and right under a fantasy point per minute, 0.95. But if you're getting him at, let's say 31, 32 minutes, which I think is a safe projection without
Sure.
Clarkson, then what? He's giving you 30 fantasy points and he's paying off, he's paying off in spades. So I really like this next tier of just kind of sitting in that range of point guard. And so it's Malcolm Brogdon, obviously. He's been pretty good since returning, pretty good since entering the starting lineup. 25 and 35 fantasy points in his 2 games since being back.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. Brogdon's obviously, and I mean, do we think we see more minutes out of him tonight? I mean, they kind of ramping him up a little bit. You get 26 and 25, no pool. Be interested to see if we get some additional minutes out of Brogdon here tonight.
Isn't this the exact conversation we had about Rob Williams last night?
Yeah, I think there's difference of injury history, maybe more fragile of a player.
I mean,
Brogdon was supposed to have bad knees, then all of a sudden he came back and had no problem last year, right? That was just a selfish.
Yeah, but then he left. But then he but then he got hurt again and missed the remainder of the year and has
Sure.
only played 4 games this year. So it's not like he's necessarily been healthier.
I feel better about Brogdon than I ever would about Rob Williams playing. And as I mean, Rob Williams got hurt in a different way last night, but still. All right, value tier then. After we get down past, you have George, you have Dosunmo, DiVincenzo, get the Washington guys down here. Anything particular you're looking to target?
You could play Io. I think, a lot of people will be off him for his last game when he was like 60% owned. 29 minutes didn't look great in a blowout, but they're starting that small ball lineup. I expect them to do the same in this game. The night prior in the in-season tournament, he played 38 minutes and was in every winning lineup. So
Sure.
there is a teeter-totter of production with Io DeSumo, but I definitely think he's in play. That would be the one guy that I'd point out there.
All right. Shooting guard. Up at the top, some guys we've already discussed. We had Hero. You went in on Levine. Are you fading Levine on the Koulibaly defense? Like, is he just not in a spot for you tonight?
No, didn't say that. But I mean, like, it's just depending on like your opinion on individual defense and like,
Sure.
is Koulibaly good enough to work around screens, and is he able to stay at a foul? I mean, there's a lot of factors. I'm not fading Levine. I was just like, I think more so about Kobe White just pointing out an alternative because
Sure.
Levine is one of the highest 5 rostered players or 6, whatever he is, in the top 10 of some sort. He's also the most expensive of their guards. And yes, he's definitely the best scoring option. But if
Yeah.
he doesn't have the scoring going, does he have the ceiling that Kobe White or Giddy have? Because they're typically better peripherally. So
On a smaller slate, I only ask that because obviously, if you think that this is a tougher matchup for Levine and maybe he won't hit projections, it gives you an opportunity where there is going to be so much consolidated ownership to kind of have that pivot there. Again, probably not going to play Beal, but you could certainly play Hero instead of Levine if you wanted to. Milwaukee, not a great defensive team. Butler is back. That does impact a little bit with Tyler Hero, but still one of their leading offensive players. What did you feel about the rest of the shooting guard position? I mean, some of these guys we did talk about already, but anybody of note that we haven't yet?
um not in this range. We talked Sexton, we talked Brogdon. Obviously, awaiting Jalen Green news is pretty big
Yep.
because no Jalen Green. You have to assume Amen Thompson would be your starter at 5K, and you could play Thompson regardless, just
Yeah.
given the minutes ceiling and the fantasy production that comes with it. I wrote, I think, in the playbook that he's relentless at 3 things: defense, rebounding, and attacking the rim. Like those 3 things, if he's doing all at one night, he stays on the floor. So I think Amen Thompson's in play whether or not Jalen Green is in or out.
Sure.
But obviously shooting guard, small forward, like really good eligibility. Stephon Castle's fine. The minutes are good. The shot volume's good. Peripheral stats are good. Yeah, I'm good getting there if that's where you land. I think that the pool news also kind of put me on to Corey Kispert a little bit, 4,400. I'm not like completely sold on Kispert. I did add him to the playbook after the pool news broke because it's hard to ignore the minutes, and it's hard to ignore anyone that's getting that many minutes in this
Right.
game environment, right? They're second and fourth in pace, respectively, in Bulls and Wizards. Their Wizards are 30th in defense. The Bulls are 28th. And he took 11 threes. And that is who Corey Kispert is. He spaces the floor for them. There's occasions where he grabs, a handful of rebounds. And then if he's making the threes as well, 4,400 is too cheap. But very few and far between those games. So, shooting guard, small forward, 4,400 with 36-minute upside. I'm not saying he's going to get there because what if this scenario plays out like you said, Brogdon plays more? Or what if Keyshawn George plays more than 29 and Keyshawn George started last game, right? So
Yeah.
I'm not banking on 36, but it's, obviously nice to know that it's in the cards in the same scenario they had the other day. No Jordan
Right.
Poole. And, in a cup game, if Kitsport's making shots, he's not. I mean, they're just going to keep him on the floor because that's their space. That's their space that they need for, especially if Kuzma's not making shots and whatnot. So I'm good with getting to some Kitsport at 44.
All right. Do we have Rozier news yet?
I mean, he's still probable, but again, the last time he was listed probable, he sat. So we'll see what the official word is there.
Because you obviously mentioned Pelle Larson there on the last game, and 36 minutes for him could be on tap as a value play. Anybody else shooting guard?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Small forward. Got Levine already. Butler, $7,800. Laurie, 74 in that tier.
Yeah. I am definitely, again, Levine's great eligibility. Jimmy's really interesting. He's looked great in back-to-back games, and there was large gaps of time in between, 10 days, 6 days, like missing time in between those games. But back-to-back 50 bombs. Milwaukee is improving defensively, 14th in defensive rating this year. That's obviously gotten better as like they've implemented the Andre Jackson starting lineup, and they're Prince and Trent is playing better. Like they've been better. But Jimmy just has been good kind of all year long. We've had a lot of ceiling games out of Jimmy Butler. I mean, you exclude Denver where he leaves with an injury, and Phoenix just kind of a dud. I mean, we've had a lot of ceiling games from Jimmy this year. So I like Jimmy Butler 7,800. I love Larry Markkinen, and like this is going to be probably a spot that I just plant my flag here. 25 plus actual points in 4 of the last 5. And before that span, we had talked about it. Like he had not gotten going whatsoever. He had looked kind of just like disoriented. I mean, Utah looked terrible in general, but like the minutes weren't great. The Utah was getting blown out every game, and like things just hadn't been going well until they were. And now he's scoring at a really high clip. The rebounds have been pretty consistent. I mean, at least in the one game they weren't. You get 2 blocks out of Markkinen. So, this is a spot where, and I was looking at this earlier, the Spurs are actually worse defensively with Victor Wembanyama on the floor this year, which I found a little interesting, but it's a big sample. They're just about league, just like a little better than league average. But this is obviously a really good spot for points to be scored. We saw it the last time these two teams played. So I really like Markkinen, 1.2 fantasy points per minute with Clarkson and Filipowski off the floor this year. 22-ish% usage rate, but like he's never a guy he's a guy who slashes, who takes a lot of threes, and is really effective at both those things. So I think that there's 50 in the bag in back-to-back games here. I would not be surprised if Markkinen has another ceiling scoring game. So like I like Levine, I like Butler. In tournaments, I am pivoting to a lower owned Markkinen.
So Laurie only sitting around 10% tonight. So if he goes for the 50, that's going to certainly give you an upside over the field here, big time. Levine specifically, because a lot of ownership is on Levine. Butler checking in around even less actually than Laurie today. So those are definitely your 2 pivots. When you're going there. Zevon mentioning Bazulis, Rolly asking about Bazulis as well. Thoughts on the value tier at the small forward position? You called out and put me on Bazulis in that last Memphis game, saying they wanted to get him more minutes he played. 29 minutes there.
Yeah, and for those worried, because that Memphis game got out of hand, and like the starters didn't play the final few minutes. He had 23 minutes going into the 4th quarter, so it wasn't like there was, they just played him 12 in the 4th, and Chicago cut the lead. No. He played 23 minutes going into the 4th. Probably would have had another shift anyway. But yeah, I mean, that was something that Billy Donovan specifically quoted. And as long as you're having the head coach specifically quote that, I'm not saying you have to coach speak is a thing. But Billy Donovan, he's laid out he said he wanted to play fast this year. They've played in the fastest pace in the league up until yesterday. Every game this year. They told us that Bazulis was going to play more, 20 and 29 minutes in back-to-back games. So, yeah, I mean, 4K is is definitely a pivot because Keyshawn George exists now,
Yep.
and like that instantly became the chalk of the day. And I think it's great chalk. I mean, Keyshawn George numbers last game looked really good. Obviously, 29 minutes didn't close. That's the only thing I wish we got a little more of, and I wish Washington was like electing to go with like why the youth movement
Yeah.
over. But like if they're gonna play Brogdon, they're gonna play Brogdon, right? Like it is what it is. Um, but 29 minutes, 15, 5, and 5. We know this guy will take and make a lot of shots, and he could do it in bunches too. So
Mm-hmm.
Bazulis is definitely in play, but he is definitely not a priority at this like in this range when George exists. And just circling back a little bit, Bilal Koulibaly 5,700, I think is definitely interesting. Um, we just kind of like went to value, and I understand it because that's like where all the ownership is
Yeah,
going.
so the questions are coming in, but
Yeah,
obviously,
and
yeah, there's Eason, Koulibaly down here, some guys we talked about already.
yeah, and the minutes for Koulibaly are just that's just where like I have a hard time like not wanting to gravitate to him.
Yeah.
Outside of that Dallas game or Detroit game rather, when they get housed 38, 40, 38, 38, 35, 37 minutes. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's just not coming off the floor.
Right.
And so even in this like up tempo offense that Washington plays, like it doesn't wear 38 minutes in Atlanta, right? Atlanta is now the officially ranked number one pace team in the NBA, slightly ahead of Chicago. 38 minutes. So like nothing's taking this guy off the floor. Probably need a little more offense out of him without Jordan Poole. We saw it last game. So
Sure.
um I like Koulibaly at 57 too.
All right, let's talk about Bryce Sensabaugh here. All day long, he has been among the highest rostered players on the slate. You and I have not really understood, kind of understood, sort of get it, sort of don't. He was a DNP in their most recent game, but the last time they had no Clarkson was that San Antonio game you see on the board there. He played 22 minutes. He hit 7 of 13 in 4 threes. He had 31 fantasy points. He's min price $3,000. He's not. We don't expect him to start. Like that's
No.
not what. No, there's like because Clarkson doesn't start. Their starting lineup's
Yep.
going to be Kessler, Collins, Laurie, Sexton, and Conte George probably for
Yep.
this game.
Yep.
So you're banking on him getting the 22 minutes. There's no Cody Williams as well with the team, so there's at least a rotational wing spot for Sensabaugh to play. How much are you trusting it? Because he's coming in around 30% ownership here today.
Yeah, I mean, maybe this is a mistake and maybe it's naive of me, but I didn't even include him in the playbook. He's not even in the playbook. So, um, I think it's a lottery. Like, yeah, he was great in this spot, right? Are people just playing him because he had a random spurt against the Spurs? There was no
Right.
Clarkson in that game. I know there's no Clarkson in this game. There was no Walker Kessler in that game. There is Walker Kessler in this game. Like, he DMP'd in a game that Keontae George only played 26 minutes in. What if Keontae George plays 32 like the rest of the starters, right? Um, what they've been playing Johnny Juzang.
Yep.
What if Johnny Juzang is the guy who shot the ball really well? What if he's the one that gets extended, right? Like
They can
I'm
still
not
play Collier like as an
yeah,
option.
and they still play like there's obviously like minutes to be had, but how many minutes does Bryce Sensabaugh need to get there? Because outside of that one game that we saw, he's in 10 games, John,
Yeah.
in 13 minutes. He has gone 5x or above twice, right? So like why are we like I mean way less than a fantasy point per minute. I mean, I don't know.
It's not like he gets out there and is like a Delano Banton, right? In 12
No,
minutes, he's got a whole bunch of
right.
like 20 fantasy point games. He's not that. He's not like a high volume shooter. So like we can go out there and point to like, oh, well, he played 18 minutes. So he took 16 shots. He's not that guy either. So you really need him to be as efficient as he was in those. And that's assuming he gets the 22 minutes
Right.
that he got last time. So I'd be very curious to see if this ownership comes down as it gets adjusted. But as of now, he's 30%. I get he's 3K, but he's not anybody that I'm looking to play,
Agreed.
Here at all. Anybody else?
There's the Spurs guys, Champagny, Barnes, if you want to
Sure.
play either of them. I mean,
Don't disrespect Harry B like that.
I'm proud of him for
player
winning a
of the week or whatever it was.
Yeah, I'm proud of him. So proud of him. If I lose to Harrison Barnes again, salute.
42,
I got nothing. I got nothing.
3 straight 20-point games. Even Wemby back in one of those.
And Wemby smashed in that game.
Yeah,
Didn't even matter.
Didn't matter. Playing the 1-2 game. All right, power forward. Giannis is up at the top here. Against Miami. Getting some injury news here. THT and Phillips both in for Chicago tonight. Not that they're going to play a lot, but they're active. Or play at all, but they're active. Giannis, LeBron, you get KD, Randall at your top 4.
I mean, Giannis is obviously appealing. We've talked about this before, right? And it didn't work out the last time we said it, but I'll say this every single time I look at a ownership board and see Giannis at 10%. He's a GPP winner. If he goes nuclear, He's 10%. If he goes for 75 fantasy points tonight, you probably needed Giannis unless Wemby goes for 70 or AD goes for 70 or whatever spend up else that you went for 70 as well. If Giannis goes for 75 and clears the field by 15 plus fantasy points, well then, yeah, you needed him. So at 10%, there's obvious appeal.
I don't think anybody's playing him because he's the most expensive player on the slate, right? You're getting a $1,200 discount on Wemby. You're getting a $500 discount at AD, right? So,
yep. No, you're getting a $1,500 discount off AD. It's 80 is way too.
I was the FanDuel. They're closer in price. So yeah, he's actually $1,500.
Yeah,
$1,200. So
yeah, there's no one going here. And we say it. I mean, it just is what it is, right? If he has 75, you have a great chance. And the Washington ownership, or the Washington news, with Poole being out, obviously opened up plenty of opportunity for you to get to Giannis, right? You play George, you play Kispert, you play Giannis, and then you have all the Utah guards. You have Spurs that are cheap. You have Chicago isn't crazy expensive. So there's a lot of opportunity to get to Giannis if you want. Obviously, the field, 90% of them are not playing Giannis, but I will repeat myself until people stop watching about just the sheer upside of getting a top 5 player in the NBA with no ownership.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% here. All right. So Giannis is obviously there. LeBron 10K. We had a question. Do we think KD gets limited by Anthony?
I do, but 31, 30-31 would be my guess. I still think KD is something, still guy is a superhuman. I still think he's going to probably hit 30 minutes. I think Bradley Beal has the definite 26, 27 restriction.
Okay. Where else are we looking to go here? Randall's down there. John Collins is $7,300. Kuzma, 63. Kuzma, highest rostered player on the slate because of that price point. In the matchup against Chicago here, are you buying in?
So the Kuzma stuff is kind of annoying. And it's really tricky because in theory, John, he should be the highest rostered player in the slate. 6,300, no Jordan Poole, 244 plus implied points.
Yeah.
He just hasn't been great outside of 2 games this year. One, he almost triple-doubled. The other one, he took 28 shots. Everything else has just kind of been But the price reflects that. The matchup is elite. My one concern is obviously I messaged you. He gets almost a 3% usage downgrade this year, and it's only an 80-minute sample. Take that for what it's worth. But he just hasn't been shooting well. I mean, sub 30% from three, sub 70% from the line. Alex Sarr and Valanciunas are there. Kuzma, the rebounds that once were there are not there anymore, or no longer like the opportunity to be there more consistently. But at the end of the day, that might not matter if you get the 28 shot Kuzma tonight with no Jordan Poole in a cup game that they are 0-2 in and they need to win. So I mean, it's like you pick your poison. Do you want to fade the highest player, the highest rostered player of the slate at 6,300 when he's kind of been terrible this year, but you know that the player isn't this terrible? So, um, I haven't finished my builds yet, so I can't like say if I'm in single entry if I'm fading him or not. But
Sure.
like, you'll know very early if fading Kyle Kuzma was a bad idea if you do,
Yep.
because that game has 245 implied points. If he comes out and has a 12-point first quarter, you're like, all right, well, can just play the late slate.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I mean, even against Boston, he went 10 of 19, but he gave you nothing else. So if he gives you an empty 21 fantasy points, you're not really too worried there. To Prince, I just re-uploaded. It's working now. Apologies for the FanDuel issue there. Justin talking about the minutes here for Wemby. Last time they played back to backs, he was limited on a difference there. So
no, there was a blowout. It was a 30-point loss. So that is just a natural limit because there was a blowout.
Ryan saying Harry B has these stretches every year. He sure does. Definitely has runs where we're like, is he back? And then he goes back. Coach Chris loves some Kevin Love here tonight. Terry Rozier is active for tonight's game. We got that official word there. So we got that. Anthony saying Giannis isn't scoring more than 55 because Milwaukee isn't good. I mean, they're getting better, and he's been really good, dude. So, I mean, it's possible. Miami, he's going to have to deal with Bam and things like that. But, Wemby, Davis, or Giannis, anyone wants to know. Pick one.
Wemby, Davis, or Giannis. I mean, I would probably rank them how you have them listed. But also I understand, if you want Davis, if you want the discount a little bit, because Davis is $300 cheaper. And I understand if anybody ever was like, yeah, I want to play Giannis tonight, I'd be like, all right, yeah. Because what Anthony said, I don't necessarily agree with. Like, they are 8-9. They've won 4 in a row. They've won 6 of 7, and Giannis has basically nuked every single slate outside of Houston, and Houston's like, we've talked about how good they are. So, I personally don't disagree, Anthony, and we can agree to disagree there on Giannis and how good he can be. I don't necessarily disagree with the point that you're making about Giannis and the rest of your lineup isn't going to be like as ideal as you would if you're playing Wemby or AD as your spend up.
Smaller slate, so there's less of a player pool to build guys around Giannis with, for sure.
Right.
I don't agree that a balanced lineup is always the way to go. We've seen plenty of times winning
stars
with
and scrubs.
some stars and scrubs for sure. Kuzma needs to be traded, possibly. Chris saying plays Wemby. Trent might be decent value.
I actually had him written up when I saw Taurean Prince was questionable, and then they upgraded Prince, and I just kind of moved away. But he has, salute to Gary Trent, the shots back, and he has been playing really well.
He do smash Milwaukee in the playoffs. That is true.
They do. We said that on the show. Like,
I always say Milwaukee is a playoff team as well. Like, they just show, Miami rather, is a team just built for the playoffs. And then how many minutes did you put for Brogdon today? 26? 25?
I think I gave him the half. So 20, I think I went 26 and a half.
Yeah. So around there. All right. So mid-tier guys we've talked about. Eason, if you want in tournaments for sure. Sar, 5K. You talk about a guy coming off of a big performance, 17, 14. The stocks are pretty legit for this guy as well. So there's certainly a ceiling at a game with a 245 total. He hasn't even really been that foul happy either. I mean, never had more than 4 in a game. So if you're worried about Vuk maybe causing him some troubles, he's largely kept his hands to himself, which is good. So 5K for Sar. What do you think?
The Cavs, Zavon. I mean, I don't know if you're a fan of either of those teams, but the Darius Garland's not getting traded. They're 15-1. They're probably not going to trade him. Alex Sarr is definitely interesting. Please knock on wood for the foul trouble because that is just such a bad omen, and I don't want my dogs to go crazy. So, or else I would. I mean, there's just there's a very high ceiling and a very low floor with Alex Sarr. Twice in the last 5 games, he's gone for 46 fantasy points, and the other three, I don't know if he barely got to 46 combined. So, there is a very wide range of outcomes.
Mm-hmm.
The minutes are like annoying, and I know it's Valanciunas related. Like they're not. They tried to play them next to each other, it didn't work, and now they're just like splitting time, and they don't want to like extend Sar really past 31 minutes because even in these 2 games, they would have extended him past 31 minutes if they felt comfortable doing so. But it's obviously a great spot. $5,000, a lot of a very high ceiling. You just need to get the scoring night correct because the scoring night has really been contingent on like when the ceiling has flashed because the peripheral stats are great. So
Yeah,
I like SAR at 5K. Just obviously a very wide range of outcome.
I agree with you. Where else are we going power forward? Any top values for you today?
I mean, we had mentioned I thought Jabari Smith would be like top 5 in ownership. He was in the top 10 to begin the night
Yeah.
or to begin the day. He has since fallen off a cliff. I think a lot has to go right for Jabari on a night to night basis. You feel better about it if Jalen Green's out. There's just one less guy to take minutes away from him. Because every time Amen Thompson and Tari Eason come on the floor, we just worry about them. But if one of them's starting, we don't have to worry about one of them taking minutes away. So, if Green's out, Jabari Smith is just too cheap at 4,500. The matchup is what it is. Like Julius Randle is obviously the weak link of that defense. So if that's the way that they, elect to defend him, that would be a pretty good spot. So I do think 4,500 for Jabari Smith is a little too cheap. And then we've talked about like everything else down here. George,
Yeah.
Bazulis. That's it.
I would go AD over Wemby. I don't know. What do you think for cash games?
I would probably Wemby's my top play. So like I would go Wemby, but I have like
Cash games. I just feel like there's just like a safer run for Anthony Davis, but maybe not.
I mean, they both like Wemby came back from, or whoever spoke poorly on Wemby, he literally took that personal Michael Jordan meme and has been just nails since. So I mean, they're both fine for cash. I lean Wemby, you lean Davis. Yeah.
Does Butler take a hit with Rozier back?
A little. Still a 24% usage guy, still 1.2 fantasy points per minute. So it's still fine. It's obviously like Rozier also like less than 20 fantasy points in I think 3 straight, or he was at 20 in one of the 3. So Jimmy, Hero, Bam are still like the priorities in that Heat offense, and Rozier still hasn't like fit in too well.
Yeah, I agree. It's again upside play. You can always fill out the stat sheet there. Center, top 3 guys are all there. You said Wemby's your number 1 guy at 10-8.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to pass on Victor Wembanyama for me tonight. No Vassell. He's going to play tomorrow. Also, maybe something you factor in. Wemby was on the injury report. Obviously, missed a couple games. Could play this game. Could sit tomorrow. They're playing Vassell tomorrow. He could sit, and that's why he's sitting today. So like, I'm not really like factoring in tomorrow for Wembanyama because again, he played monster minutes in the second leg after they got blown out in the first game. So like I think like the days, and we also have to factor in this is not Greg Popovich coaching. Popovich is away from the team right now, so new coach, new ideas, and obviously Wembanyama. I think if we were concerned at all, after 8 days, he wouldn't have played 34 minutes. I think that kind of spells any type of like concerns we've
Yeah.
had with Victor. And it was a knee. It wasn't like that's like something to be concerned with, and there was no concern in terms of minutes. Without Sohan, without Vassell this year, 34.5% usage rate, 1.7 fantasy points per minute. It's just like monster stuff. And we're just talking usage there. It's not even factoring in what he can do with stocks, right? Not factoring in what he can do defensively. And the assists have been amazing lately. And we know he's a good passer, but 9, 5, and 6. I don't know if it's sustainable, but we know
Right.
that it's in his bag. So there's just so many. I mean, he can beat you in every singular way on the basketball court. He made 8 threes in a game. He has 7 blocks in a game. He has 50 actual in a game. He has 20 rebounds in it. Like, he has done everything, every single thing on the floor. He's my top spend. Ownership reflects that as well. He is the top spend,
Right.
at least in terms of ownership on the board. I get it if you need the $300. There are slates where you're like, damn, I love my lineup. I need $300. Anthony Davis, great pivot, great pivot. That game is weird, right? It's
Yeah.
an hour after every other game. There's no ownership basically outside of Anthony Davis on it. Phoenix is so hard to play because we don't know what the Beal Durant minutes are going to be. What does Beal Durant do to Devin Booker's ceiling at $9,000? Nurk might not be on the floor after 4 minutes and 2 fouls after Davis is done with them. So if you want like late night hammer exposure, 1 and 2, you need the money, and 3, obviously Anthony Davis has a 70 fantasy point ceiling. He is a perfectly fine play, just like Victor. They would be 1 and 2
Sure.
for me in terms of like the guys that I'm prioritizing. We've talked Giannis already, and my feelings there, but Victor and AD are 1 and 2 ranked how they're priced for me. AD is the guy with less ownership, late night hammer, and obviously
It's
that
got
game
the
actually
second.
has
Well,
the
that's
second most
why I think
implied
it's
points
interesting, right?
too.
It has the second most implied points. It's a relatively close competitive spread as well. Davis has had good games against Phoenix this year. The Phoenix is healthier, so do you think they'll be competitive on their end? You get that late night hammer an hour after the other games kick off, then they kick off, and now you got AD and LeBron that can go for 60 plus. So I think just from a game theory manship standard here, getting some exposure there is pretty interesting. Şengün, Bam are there. I just go to Vucevic as my next play at 82.
And
Again, I should have no problem no matter who Washington ends up putting on the floor against him tonight.
yeah, and he's just been great. And I think like what's led him to being great, or at least just like improving, is the threes. I feel like last year we were talking about it where it's like, dude, just
Mm-hmm.
make a couple more of them. He's making a lot more of them. 46% from 3 this year for Vooch. He's shooting almost 90% from the foul line as well. He's only missed 5 of 41 free throws this year. He's been nails. And you're right. I mean, Sarr is young, gonna have a problem guarding Vooch in the post, and Valanciunas is just fleet of foot. I mean, it's just gonna be barbecue chicken out there for Vooch, and in a game with a massive total, should play 35 minutes, typically where we've seen him like cap 35 minutes. So yeah, there's a 50 plus fantasy point
I agree.
output waiting to happen.
Anybody else here for center that you like?
Yeah, we didn't really touch on Collins. Obviously, you can always play John Collins. You and I understand more than most that like when people are out, John Collins has an insane ceiling. I didn't really back you up there at power forward, but 27% usage, 1.6 fantasy points per minute for Collins when Clarkson and Filipowski are off the floor this year. So love Collins, even though he's playing power forward right now. Just saw a comment from Ryan. Salute to you, Ryan, long time viewer here. Gobert is too cheap. It's more of like a cash game play. He has not been. There's just like not a lot of has not flashed like too high of a ceiling, but cheap plays really solid minutes, especially with how poorly Naz Reid's been playing. Will get you a double double, and if there's blocks, like there's 40 something fantasy point upside. So Gobert definitely safe. I really do kind of like Walker Kessler tonight. Obviously, like it's been a mixed bag for Walker Kessler, but he has had some monster games this year. And another one that just missed 2 weeks exactly on the dot and then just returned 35 minutes out of the gate. They're obviously more shorthanded than they were with no Filipowski, no Clarkson. I am very comfortable, and I shouldn't say this because it's Will Hardy, but I'm very comfortable with the Utah Jazz starters minutes tonight. I know it. I'm probably jinxing it, and it is what it is. But like just seeing that Knicks game play out the way it did, like if they're good again tonight, where like Kessler was really good on multiple ends of like both ends of the floor, and Sexton was great, and Collins was great, and Markkanen was great. Like they're gonna be competitive with the Spurs, and if they're competitive again, you know they're not gonna like extend Drew Eubanks for 30 minutes tonight, where they could technically extend Filipowski over Kessler if he wanted. So I do like the price for Walker Kessler because I think he's given us multiple occasions this year when healthy he's gone over
Yep,
40 fantasy.
I like it. We had a question here. Would you from Beantown? Would you play Sar and Dave Val in the same lineup? Probably not. I mean, they've obviously had good games, but the minutes for Valanciunas aren't really inspiring here. They're just, you got to.
This is Toronto,
Yeah,
Toronto all over again,
probably
right?
not even at the $4,800 price tag. I mean, I threw him in, not Jabari. I threw the other Smith earlier in a lineup, Jalen, just because we know what he can be in tournaments, and he's 36. Like, I'd rather play 15-minute Jalen Smith than maybe 20-minute Bryce Sensabaugh, right? Like, I think there's a bigger chance in this game against Washington for Jalen Smith in 15 minutes to go out there and just do his thing. So dark tournament only, obviously, but I wouldn't mind, Jalen Smith when making multiple lineups. Any other centers for you?
Nope.
Anthony's saying can't get to him, but he's not fading Edwards, Markkanen, or Butler today.
I don't know who he's talking about. Wemby, I assume, or AD. I don't know. He was also talking Nurkic right before that. So, Giannis. He's talking Giannis.
Food plays a lot, so Joe Val should play more, says Coach Chris.
That's not necessarily true.
They don't always run the minutes like that. So, and then Brogdon or Keyshawn George tonight.
George.
Let's see. FanDuel, who's the best $4,600 power forward? Give me a second, and I will let you know. See, power forward, FanDuel, $4,600. Yeah, Bazulis is 4K. That's probably what I would go with. I'd go with Bazulis.
Probably
the only one. Yeah, I was gonna say I'm looking. I don't think I wouldn't play Jovic. I wouldn't play Highsmith. I wouldn't play Love. I think Bazulis is your guy there, Zevon. Yeah, Keyshawn George. We're in.
Love him. Yeah,
he was saying he wouldn't play Giannis. He would play Edwards and all them. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, I just need to read a little better. That was on me. All
right.
Sorry.
Build the lineup. We going to
go? Let's go to Chicago, Washington.
Stack Chicago, Washington.
Yeah, I mean, just like this game.
Kobe's a cover of your Playbook.
Like, yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm playing Kobe White today.
So Keyshawn then Bazulis probably.
Keyshawn George, yeah.
Some value out of the way.
Sure.
All right.
I think that there's a little. I do think Julian Phillips could take a few minutes from Bazulis. But
anybody else in this game you want to plug before we
not many. What is your take on Kuzma?
I like Sar. I also like Brogdon, so I'd be okay with playing either of those two. Not playing Kuzma.
So not Kuzma. Okay. I'm
going to live or die by the Kuzma fade.
Yeah.
He just hasn't been paying off price tag, and You yourself said it. His usage rate is down without Jordan Poole. So where exactly is the benefit to this?
I mean, it's down in an 80-minute sample. And I'm not saying that's like nothing.
Sure.
That is a sample.
I mean, Brogdon has historically been a high usage player. He hasn't really been yet for them, like 22%, but it's not like he could easily just take on his shots as well.
26 last game for what it's worth in that game without Jordan Poole.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I kind of out on him.
Okay. I mean, I think we should probably have another piece of this game. Whether it is Sar, whether it's Levine, whether it's
Do you like Brogdon today or no? Or Giddey?
Yeah, I have Brogdon written up.
You're more worried about the minutes with him.
I mean, I think like Giddey and Brogdon's minutes could look somewhat similar on the end of the night. Okay. One guy's cheaper than the other. I think Giddey has the higher ceiling than Brogdon, but
if we did Sar, we could put him at the forward spot. Right.
Yeah,
I put in Wemby because you said he was your top overall player, so that gives us 6,300. Mm-hmm. Do you go Sexton? Do you go George? Yeah. Who do you prefer?
Yeah, Sexton's good.
That gives us 66 for a guard and a forward, so we can probably get like one more minor spend up here. If you had a prefer.
Who are you feeling?
I mean, you like to market it, and I'm fine with the ownership dark play. And that would give us a $5,800 guard, which would put us back into Keontae or Brogdon or Castle or something like that.
I would be willing to play 6 to 7 of that game. I mean, it's just like both teams are missing pieces. There's 244.5 implied points. They're both bottom 3 defense, both top 4 pace. Like that is the dream fantasy scenario if we went with Brogdon.
Yeah, that's fine by me. White, Sexton, George, Bazulis, Wemby, Brogdon, Sar, Markkanen. We're getting our some ownership with the advantages they were marketing on the lineup, and we're stacking the game with a 240 total. The only thing we're missing is the late night hammer.
Yeah, hopefully, maybe San Antonio, Utah will have a delay.
A bat? No, they're not in San Antonio. If they were in San Antonio, there was a chance for a bat delay. They've had that before.
True. I watched DeMarcus Cousins mop up the floor as well. In I think Sacramento, there was a leak in the ceiling. So maybe if there's a leak in the ceiling, we'll get 2 late night hammers and we'll just have exposure.
So there you go. This is an example lineup for everybody. Appreciate you all tuning in. Again, it is Black Friday week here over at Fantasy Alarm. Got our all-pro annual discount, $100 off the annual. BF24 is the promo code. It's less than $16 a month is what it comes out to. If you go check out our packages right now, our monthly is like $39.98. We give you 50% off on the occasion of promo code Let's Go. For the first month only, well, this is $100 off for the year. It's $16 a month, less than $16 a month for the entire year. Get access to all of our content, all DFS, all betting, all pick'em, draft guides for baseball, for basketball, for football, you name it, whatever it's on Fantasy Alarm and premium Discord access, you'll get for less than $16 a month. It's the best deal I've ever seen us give out. I've been to Fantasy Alarm for over a decade at this point, so got to get involved here. Got to scan that QR code or go to fantasyalarm.com/Black Friday. Promo code BF24 should be automatically entered for you. Hit submit and come join the family. It starts off with a 7-day free trial as well. So try us for 7 days. If you don't like it, you can cancel. No charges done. Otherwise, you're locked in for a fantastic price there for the year. So check us out, fantasyalarm.com/Black Friday. Grande and I will be back tomorrow. Big slate. We'll have the preview show and a live show at 5. Till then, everybody, we'll catch you later.